Access Hampton and Harris with Bobby Roquemore, where the world of sports meets the mic and the hammer of the law.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of Hampton and Harris with our great friend Bobby Roquemore, coming to you on a Wednesday evening. Hope everybody's doing great. JD, always good to see you. My co-host and great friend, John Harris, John J.D. Harris, one of America's great sports writers and authors. What's up, good brother?
It's always good to be with you, Rick. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, JD. Looking forward to the show. We got a lot to talk about. I want to start off the evening, though. I just happen to have the my TV on mute as I was watching the Pistons and Bucks go at it from Milwaukee. And about 2 minutes into the game, Giannis Antetokounmpo goes down with a non-contact injury, and JD, we don't know what it is, and I hope it's not what it could be. But when you see guys go down the way he did, nobody was near him. It makes you think about that dreaded Achilles injury that's been going on a bit across the NBA, and it comes at anytime some kind of injury like that comes at a terrible time. But this really comes at a bad time for the Bucks with rumors of Giannis asking for a trade surfacing. The team has just broke a 7-game losing streak. I think they've lost 7 of the last 8. So, man, you just never know in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier. A few years ago, this team won a championship. People were talking the D word, dynasty.
Yeah.
And now you're queuing up the music. Dun, 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 dun. If Giannis is out, I mean, the Bucks are out as far as any legitimate championship hopes for this season.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, they have veteran coach Doc Rivers there. You know, they, like you said, they won the title. What was that, 2021, something like that?
I think it was 21. Yeah.
They had Middleton. They had a great backcourt with Middleton and Drew Holiday, and I guess they were older because both of those guys look like they're at the back end of their career. Middleton's been hurt, the last 3 or 4 years, and Drew Holiday's had an outstanding career, but he's just an older guy now. And they tried to bring Dame in, Damian Lillard. That didn't work well. And I think did Dame have an Achilles that he went down?
Yeah, he had a major injury. You mentioned Holiday. I think that's where everything turned for them. He was the glue. He was a defensive guy. He could score when he needed to. He just provided that chemistry that championship team needs. And no Dame, better score and all that. He's not the complete all-around player that Holiday was, and it was shown. It wasn't the greatest mesh with him and Giannis, and Holiday went on and won a championship in Boston.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the first mistake.
And that move goes to, it's not always the 5 best players, but the 5 players who play best together. Yeah. I would think most people would say Damian Lillard is a superior player to Drew Holiday, but I don't think it's that big. I never thought it was that big a difference. Even in Damian's prime, he was a terrific scorer, but Holiday was such an all-around guy. And, he was perfect for what they were doing in Milwaukee. And as you said, Damon never really meshed when he got there. Both guys that he and Giannis need to get a lot of shots, need to have a ball a lot. And Lillard did, and not Lillard, but Holiday didn't need that. He wasn't concerned about scoring. He's concerned about winning, and that's what made him perfect there. So I hadn't heard any report, and we probably won't hear anything tonight. But he's not on the. Giannis is not on the court. Hadn't been on the court since it happened. He's not sitting on the bench. So we'll see, and we'll see what happens. I mean, you can forget about trading him now. That's for sure. If this is a major injury.
Yeah, they're just going to have to ride out the season, develop some of the young players, and hope, that it's not a major injury, or that if it is, that he's able to come back healthy, either at the end of this season or at the beginning of next season. And even when he comes back, it's just still going to be that talk, speculation about him wanting to go to another team.
Yeah. Hey, and JD, when we get it, we're going to do our Tendex update when we go through the league and look at who's doing what. Is Giannis, I'm sure he's still a highly ranked player.
Oh, yeah. He's tremendous talent because he does so many things. I mean, he scores, he rebounds, he can pass, he blocks shots. He's a great team player because even though he can put up the big scoring numbers, he doesn't have to take 50 shots. He gets his points where he gets them. He doesn't mind sharing the rock, especially if it contributes towards winning. Just remember him in that championship series against Phoenix, the different things that, blocking shots, running the floor, dunking, posting up. I mean, he hit his free throws. I mean, he did everything that year. We saw the best of him that season. I don't know that'll go down as being the best season he ever had in the league, but he was definitely the MVP that year.
Yeah. You're watching Hampton and Harris with Bobby Rockmore, talking with my great friend and co-host John Harris, longtime sports writer. We're going to get into some NFL. Also, JD has the great book on Coach Mike Tomlin. And, speaking of headlines, Coach Tomlin is kind of in the news now with his future in Pittsburgh, and we'll get to that. But since I mentioned the Tendex, let's go to Tendex, JD, and to our new friends here at Sports Fluent, talk to them about the system that you've been a part of for really the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, Tendex, thanks, Rick. Tendex is a point-per-minute rating system originated by Dave Herron several decades ago. And Dave and I became great friends. He taught me the system. I used it when I covered the NBA, when I covered the Pistons in Detroit and the Orlando Magic. Found it to be incredibly accurate and helpful, and just have continued to use it throughout the years. Sometimes I do it more out of curiosity. It works the same as it did 30 years ago. It's still incredibly accurate. I know last year had Oklahoma City far and away as the best team going into the playoffs, with the fourth highest team rating of all time amongst championship teams since 1980, and it stood up. And this year, Oklahoma City's rating is even higher than it was last year, which is scary for the rest of the NBA.
Wow. Hey, let's start in the West, since you mentioned Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And they've compiled a 114.4 Tendex rating. That's 5 plus points ahead of Houston, the number 2 team in the Western Conference, and 6 points ahead of Denver. And the next closest team is San Antonio, which is almost 10 points behind. That's dominant.
Yeah, it's the thing about I'm seeing the Lakers here. They're 12 points higher than Lakers, and that's the thing about Tendex. See, Tendex doesn't look at the record per se. The Lakers have, I think, the second best record in the NBA, or at least, in the NBA or in the West. Tendex, but according to Tendex, as a team, there's a significant difference between them and Oklahoma City. It doesn't mean the Lakers aren't good. It doesn't mean if they played in a playoff series that the Lakers couldn't beat Oklahoma City. It's just a guide to give you an idea of, which teams are dominant, which teams are the best. And sometimes teams that you don't think are as good have ratings that are higher. I know Tendex is probably one of the few rating systems right now that have the Lakers like that.
That low.
Yeah. And it's not a slight. It's just basically, it's not my opinions. It's just the pure raw numbers that each team produces. And Tendex, we throw it into the computer and that's what it comes up with.
Golden State is sitting in there at 100, just below the Lakers, and that's a team I wonder about, but that's still a relatively high ranking for the West.
Yeah. Clearly, if you look at the Tendex ratings from the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, clearly the Western Conference is the stronger conference. It was the same way last year, and it's just the strength. That's the strength of the NBA right now. You look at a team like Houston, which has they have Kevin Durant, but they have a lot of young talent. Oklahoma City, of course, has a lot of young talent. San Antonio, very young team. So these teams you're talking about not just now, but the next few years, the West is going to be dominant.
And JD, Oklahoma City has the Clippers number one first round draft pick this year, and is not protected. So if the Clippers end up with the number one pick, it's going to OKC.
It's
Come on, man.
It's ironically, I saw yesterday Gallinari retired.
Yeah,
he was in the Shea Gilgeous trade with him.
Yeah,
and in a bunch of draft picks. He just retired, and Shea is just hitting his stride. I think at age 26. Yeah, I mean, if they stay healthy and if these guys are able to keep their minds right and egos in check, there's no telling, how far this team can go, not just this year, but in future years as well. We mentioned Golden State. I watched those two teams play last night. It was a really good game, actually. Oklahoma City got off to a big lead, but Golden State came back. And Steph Curry wasn't even playing; he was out. But they were feisty. They played tough defense. They showed ways. If you're studying, okay, how do we attack Oklahoma City? They showed, I don't know if you want to call them deficiencies or flaws, but they showed ways that you can be effective and attack Oklahoma City. But the thing about Oklahoma City, when he got tight, they give the ball to Shea. He goes to work. And now he's developed this three-point shot that he could shoot three-pointers last year, but now he shoots it like he shoots a free throw.
Yeah.
And his teammates around him, guys I never heard of before, they just come off the bench and produce. They're like a college team the way they play. It's scary that you're able to get professional athletes to work together the way they do.
Yeah, they are a fun team to watch for sure. And if they stay healthy, I don't see anybody beating them. I think, in the West, I think Denver would probably be their biggest challenge because of the big fella they have, the Joker. Yep. But on this Tendex, they're still 6 points behind them.
I saw Murray just hurt his ankle, I think, yesterday or recently. I tell you, I saw a team I didn't do their rating this week, but they are the only team to beat Oklahoma City. Portland, they beat them a few weeks ago.
Portland's playing well.
And just looking at them, they have some of the components that are needed. Oklahoma City, it does give up. They're not the greatest team as far as preventing offensive rebounds. And in that game that they lost, Oklahoma City was really able to crash the boards. They have a lot of they're a sleeper type team, young athletic team, big bodies, big size bothers at times can bother Oklahoma City. inside. You attack them inside. If that was their Achilles, that's what I would say it would be. And Portland, beat them once. They've played, I think, twice since then. Oklahoma City has beaten them both times. So I'm curious. They've beaten Golden State. They beat them with Curry and they beat them without Curry. They blew out the Lakers without LeBron. I'm interested to see what happens when LeBron's playing for them. I want to see how they look up against Denver. I'd love to see it when they play Detroit. Those are the teams that we want to see how they match up against as we go throughout the season.
Yeah. Hey, let's shoot over and look at the West, where the Pistons are sitting at the in the number one spot over there at 107. With the Knicks right there at 106, and Miami, they got a system, a program, or something there.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
They are. They kind of remind me of the Steelers in terms of the NFL. They're always right there. Yeah. And if you mess around with them, they're going to beat you. And that starts, of course, with quality coaching, which the Steelers certainly have with Mike Tomlin and Eric Spoelstra down in Miami. They're sitting at 105. And Orlando, good young team that, if they can stay healthy, Banchero's been out and they've still been winning. But I'm actually surprised to see Atlanta this low. Of course, they hadn't had Porzingis and Trae Young, but they've been terrific without those guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of good young talent in the league. A lot of good young talent, developing talent. I look at a few teams on here. Detroit. That's the one good thing about Tendex. I look at their Tendex rating now, and going into the playoffs last year, their rating is high. So I mean, they're playing better at a higher level than they did last year. The Knicks are playing at a little bit higher level, but a couple teams have dropped off. Boston, obviously with the injuries to the superstar, their rating has dropped off, and Cleveland's rating has dropped off significantly because they were one of the highest rated teams in the league last year. They've dropped off considerably, their Tendex from last year.
Yeah, absolutely, 102.9. But still time to turn this around. And we hadn't got to the trade deadline yet.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens there. I just got a text from one of my former NBA buddies, and he saw the Giannis injury. Yeah. And he thinks it's going to be his Achilles. He said, I know him because I did it. So let's hope that's, as he said, he hopes he's wrong. Because, you don't see anybody go down like that, JD.
Yeah, that's a season. Not only just this season, but just as recovery in itself.
Right.
That's not an easy injury you just don't bounce back from it.
Right. And Giannis got a lot of miles on him. And he plays with one of his great virtues is what? His athleticism, right?
I think that's one of the things that as we go through the years is going to help Shai Gilgeous. Even though he's a really talented player, he's not one of those super athletic guys. He relies on his smarts, on angles, on things like that, where he's not jumping over people and dunking on them like Anthony Edwards does. So these athletic guys like Giannis, he's a great hard worker, but he is super athletic. Will he maintain that same athleticism, if that injury is as serious as everybody thinks?
Right, absolutely. So, I like the Pistons. I see them all the time being in Detroit. I'm concerned about the last few games. They've been turning the ball over quite a bit, and they did that a lot last year. But I tell you, J.B. Bickerstaff is a very good coach, John. And
yes.
He will get that cleaned up or find somebody to clean that up. Last year, Cunningham was turning over so much. Is one of the reasons why they made the trade for Schroeder to get the ball out of his hands and get it into a veteran guard's hands. And that's when they really kind of took off. and Schroeder might have averaged 10 or 12 points a game, but it wasn't his scoring. It was his command of the offense and getting the ball to the right people. And they may have to look for somebody like that again if they don't clean up the turnovers.
Chris Paul?
Chris Paul. Let's talk about Chris, JD. Wade today by the Clippers. I wonder if that's the first of many moves they're going to make. Because, man, like I was saying earlier, brother, they are in trouble because no matter how bad this year is, they're getting nothing out of it because they don't have the number one pick.
Nope. Yeah, it's scary to think I'll be honest with you, I don't know what Oklahoma City can actually – they're gonna maybe they can use that pick and get a player that they, if they're looking for something. Because what are you going to bring a super young talent guy in on that roster? They've got young talented guys. Their first round pick from Georgetown, the center, he's out. He hasn't even played yet. Right. So they've got young talent that hasn't even hit the court yet. So they may use those picks to maybe get a particular player that they're looking for, that can fit a particular need, because they're not going to be able to, as their big three, as their money starts to kick in, some of these players are not going to be hanging around, like a Dort, who people talk about. They're not going to be able to keep everybody. So, they might try to get players that replicate certain players, veterans' games, because they may not be able to keep them all. But they have that draft capital where they can do that.
And you're watching Hampton and Harris with Bobby Rockmore. JD, our friend Champy's checking in. Good to hear from you, brother. He says, don't sleep on the Suns. What are your thoughts on the Suns? They just had a very impressive win the other night. They blew the Lakers out in L.A.
And they have a slightly higher Tendex rating than the Lakers right now. And they're actually on the Western Conference list. They're 6. Tendex has them 6 behind Minnesota. So they have them ahead of the Lakers and Golden State. So your friend, he's right. They have good young talent, good chemistry, developing, and nowhere to go but up, really. It's just that conference is just so tough. It's just so many good teams, so much competition. But, I like what I see with Phoenix. I agree with them.
Yeah, absolutely. On the West. I mean, the Pistons might be the 4th or 5th best team if they're in the West. And Champion must be checking in from Arizona because he says, don't sleep on the Wildcats, the best college team and the most underrated football team in the nation.
I'm not going to argue with Champion.
Yeah,
I haven't done colleges yet. Tendex, we'll probably get around the Tendex colleges at the beginning of the year when teams start conference play. That's exciting. Tendex will get into college hoops, men and women. We have a lot of good things to look forward to and talk about on this podcast with Hampton and Harris.
And man, I tell you, JD, and I'm in Detroit, so I get to see Michigan. I get to see Michigan State. And I've been here 30 plus years. This is probably the 2 best teams they've had at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Since I've been here. Yeah. The 2 best teams, States had a national championship team. Both schools have had Final Four teams. But at the same time, 2 terrific teams. So I can't wait to see how they grade out in Tendex, because you've been telling people last year about a guy that's at Michigan now. I can't even pronounce his name properly. Is it Lindenberg or?
Yeah, he came from
UAB.
And,
from UAB.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was. I did his Tendex rating, and his numbers just jumped off the page. And I remember we talked about it, and I think he looked to possibly get into the draft, and figured, I'm going to wait, let my stock go up a little bit higher. Probably a smart move on his part. He has top 5 talent. He had top 5 talent going in the draft this year, and they could go all the way. or at least be right. They had a great team last year. Michigan did.
Yeah. Hey, let's bring in our friend and cohort here, Bobby Rockmore. Bobby, what's happening?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing?
I'm fine, and you? Thank you.
Good.
Busy day, busy world, and busy sports week already.
Well, and the law never stops.
Literally, when your deadline is December 5th, you'll be burning the midnight oil. What I do, one of my favorite stories is that when I became an attorney after being a journalist for more than a decade, one of the complaints I would get is, why do you always have to wait until the last minute to turn in your stuff? But that's what journalists do. That's when we're at our best. I was added to a new team today because I've been killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're here, Bobby, because and you're based out of Cleveland. You're in Houston. You're all over the place. But I'm really interested in your thoughts on Shedeur Sanders taking over as the starter in Cleveland. He's 1-1. He won his first game, lost last week. Deshaun Watson, the window for him to return is now open. Your thoughts on that and where you think this is all going to end up?
Okay, well, let's start with the changing the starting quarterback with, the Cleveland Browns. I'd like to even go back further, all the way back to training camp. The original plan was supposed to be Kenny Pickett, the former Pittsburgh Steeler, as a starter, Joe Flacco as the backup, Dylan Gabriel, the third-round pick, as the QB3 emergency, and then Shedeur Sanders having a, quote, redshirt year, on the team, as a member of the Cleveland Browns. That all blew up in training camp when Kenny Pickett got injured his first week. So when you hear people say all of a sudden, well, Dylan got reps and Dylan got this and Dylan got that. Well, that really wasn't the plan. But, you have to kind of start preparing when, people get injured, next man up. So then what ended up happening, of course, is Joe Flacco was 1, Dylan Gabriel was 2, and Shedeur Sanders was QB3. Joe Flacco didn't work out early, so now QB2 is now Shedeur Sanders and QB1 is Dylan Gabriel. We were told he was a supercomputer. That's what, as a Browns follower, season ticket member, I listen and follow the team very closely, but I'm also very I can be critical and analytical too. But this is what they told us, he was a supercomputer. I'm talking about Dylan Gabriel, and that would make up for whatever height deficit. And it just never happened. Not only do I, watch games, listen to games, I also attend games. And I was there in New York. That was one of his better games, actually, because the play caller had taken over the offensive coordinator. So I'm bringing all of this up to get to the point where in the Baltimore game 2 weeks ago, I got a call from my sister, during the game, what's going on, because I didn't go to that one. Shedeur is on the field, so it's like, what's going on? So he looked very nervous in that game, which I'm sure all of us would be if we were thrown into that situation. But he looked like night and day the very next week in Las Vegas, which I attended. And that was, you could tell he just had more command of the offense. And I think they were able to have enough time to put packages in for him to be effective. It also helped that the Las Vegas Raiders aren't that great of a team either. But I'm sure we've, you've heard about it by now that, he had a very good, solid start. Last week in Cleveland, so he was able to retain the starting job, even though Dylan Gabriel had cleared the concussion protocol. So that was the first big news. Okay. Now, he's the named starter. He goes into the San Francisco game in Cleveland. I'm going to turn sideways because this is how the lake is off Lake Erie when it's 40 miles an hour. So if you can't, imagine trying to watch a football game like this, because that's the conditions that he had to face. And so when people say, well, he was shackled, No, we call them the weather games because we know that the weather was a factor in those games. Lake Erie is unforgiving. I'm sure Brother John, as a Steeler former beat writer, recalls many games off of the lake. Just having to experience that. But even then, he started out, very well pretty early. But I think the weather started to affect things on top of all the other drama that goes with the Browns. There was some question about why did they go for it on 4th and 1, and that was a botched play. And, but I mean, just the idea that he was shackled, was kind of puzzling to me. I don't know if anybody watched the game. I actually listened to this one because I was working out, doing other things around the house. Every time the referee spoke, you could hear a whistle, which was the win off Lake Erie. So they didn't want to do a lot of throwing in that game, and I get it. And if you look at Brock Purdy's stats, they were about the same. Coming up this week, another opportunity for Shedeur to shine. He was named the starter again. And, I think he, again, they, just wanted to see what he would be like. And I think, he has another opportunity to do well against the Tennessee Titans. But ultimately, if he's going to retain his starting job, we do have some tough games coming up against Baltimore. Against Buffalo, a very surprisingly good Chicago Bears team on the road, your rival Pittsburgh, and then of course another rival Cincinnati. Now as far right now, as far as we're concerned, he's the starter, and it is what it is. Now,
but the window's open for Deshaun Watson, and they're going to have a high draft pick again. It looks, they're going to have a high draft pick. Do they address the quarterback position? Do you think they're there? Would you address it? I know you can't really make that call because Shedeur still has games to play. He's still waiting to see what he can do. But isn't Deshaun still under contract next year too?
That's correct. This is the year. Next year will be year 5 of the infamous 5-year, fully guaranteed, first time that had ever happened contract. It looks like a bargain now at $45 million a year compared to what other people are playing, but it's just you didn't get a lot of return on it. Just looking at that number, some people are getting paid 40, 50, 60, 55, 60. But, we didn't get a lot of return on it. So anyway, you have a lot of things going on there. So it came as a surprise to some people. It wasn't a surprise to me, as a regular follower of the team because the 21-day window means he can participate in drills. It doesn't mean he's activated. It means that he can actually touch a football. This isn't the 80s where you just threw people back out there, without a plan. They have to make sure that, the athlete is well and covered. And I think the Browns wanted to do right as well by Deshaun, giving him a chance to showcase himself and get himself back into playing shape, not just putting him on the shelf like what happened with the Houston Texans several years ago. He's generally well liked. It was in one of the games, I think the Raiders game. Of course, I wasn't listening to the broadcast because I was there, but he was applauded by the broadcasters for helping out Shedeur and being a good presence in the locker room. Again, he is very well liked around the Browns, but our fan base doesn't like him as much because they feel like he's overpaid and, in addition to former allegations that he experienced. So as far as I'm concerned, who knows what will happen? This may be a bridge quarterback. So you have to remember too, you got 2 rookie quarterbacks under contract. Why get rid of that? And then you have Deshaun. So there could be all 3 of them next year. The offensive line and receiver are probably more glaring needs than quarterback. And that's hard to pull off looking at our quarterbacks. To say that, and I mean that with all my heart. So to answer your question, maybe one of those is going to whatever the hottest offensive lineman / receiver is. And there are some thoughts that depending on what happens with this Mendoza guy this weekend, he's become the new Arch Manning, the new hot guy in college sports. So, the Big Ten championship is this weekend, and this may be that moment where people, he gets to show something, and then people may say, oh, we want him, and he becomes this number one quarterback, because all of the alleged great quarterbacks that were supposed to be coming out when the Browns made that trade, Arch Manning, Drew Ayler got injured, Nussinger and LSU hasn't done so hot. The plan didn't go out as planned at the college level.
Is Stefanski going to be there?
Now that's a tough question. I mean, some people, that's a hard one to say right now, because the locker, as bad as our record is, as bad as the Browns record is, the locker room is still relatively together. He is highly respected. I think just seeing how he has handled being called a racist, simply because he was making business decisions at quarterback. Myles Garrett is the one who revealed that he was spending time with Shedeur Sanders after practice on his own, doing overtime. Coaches do not do that in the NFL. But right. Stefanski was never going to say that. So I guess it may be a tough pill to swallow for some people who don't, are puzzling. Why would you retain a guy who's, 6 and 21 in the last 2 seasons, or whatever that number has become. But again, just, it's one of those things where they may just want to start fresh over again in 2027, or they may want to clean house. So the jury is still out on that. To summarize, it's just too early to tell. Also, another thing, the Haslams have traditionally not let people go during the season. That seems to be an organizational decision. And with the Browns pretty much 90% mathematically eliminated from the playoff race, the only thing keeping us on is a thread in the AFC North, because the AFC North is so terrible this year. If we could sneak in as a division winner, if all kind of things happen. It's just hard to tell, let somebody go. What's the point of letting somebody go now?
I think it's ironic. I think it's ironic. You talk about Stefanski, and he's had a black quarterback before, so I don't know what's in his heart, but I don't know where the racism thing is coming from. Yeah. Which I think is unfair to him, but it is what it is, unfortunately. But here's the ironic thing. You let him go, the new coach who comes in, depending on who it is, he may not want any of these quarterbacks. So, as far as Shedeur is concerned, this new coach may not want him, or Gabriel.
And again, and that's a good point too. So he might be better off, but
from Shedeur's standpoint, and the legion of Shedeur fans, it might be better off Stefanski stays. To be honest with you.
And again, the new coach may look at this as a quote, if there's a new coach, it may be viewed as a bridge year. Again, you have to remember, some experience is better than no experience. And again, you have 2 rookies on very favorable cap-friendly contracts.
True. Right.
Unless they could put, Dylan Gabriel, right. He won't be around. Okay, he won't probably be around unless Stefanski is around. I can probably say that with confidence. Yep. And I hate, again, I get disappointed sometimes in the Browns fan base. They boo, we don't boo rookies. I don't know. I don't know if he even wants to be here anymore if Stefanski's not here. I found that classless, just like I found it classless when a handful of fans booed when Deshaun Watson was hurt. But at the same time, one of the things, a new quarterback may be excited. We have these reclamation projects that suddenly are propped up around the NFL. Daniel Jones. What's the other guy? Sam Darnold. Somebody may be excited about that, and then that opportunity to do something like that. So you just never know. It's just everything is up in the air. It's like As the Browns Turns could be a TV show. I've never seen a team with this kind of record get this kind of much attention in my life. They can't stop talking about us. I'm talking about the national media. We have, and the podcasters, who, ex-athletes.
Well, the Browns have a first-class championship caliber defense. And if they can just get the offense to meet it. And man, speaking of the AFC North, I mean, there are questions about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, JD, and you, as Bobby mentioned earlier, you covered the Steelers. You wrote the definitive book on Mike Tomlin, Tomlin, the soul of a coach. Your thoughts on his status, and in fact, update us on the new edition of the Tomlin book.
Yeah, I don't know. It was crazy. It's been building. I mean, I wrote the first edition of the book. He's never been beloved in Pittsburgh. I mean, just make that clear. When I was there covering him when he got hired, there's always been that. And he's always dealt with that. In the early years, it was easy because he won a Super Bowl in his second year, and he went to another Super Bowl in his third year. No, fourth year. And those teams after that were very competitive, playoff teams almost every year, top defenses. He's in his 19th year. Just think about that for a minute. Nobody coaches 19 straight years. And the longer you're there, and you're not playing it, you haven't played in the Super Bowl in 15 years. You haven't won a playoff game since 2016. Pittsburgh has not had a losing record since 2003, something like that. Some ridiculous numbers, 2 decades. And those that never liked him are coming to the forefront now. At the game on Sunday, fire Tomlin chants in the stands. They're 6, but here's the crazy thing: they're 6-6. They play Baltimore this Sunday. Baltimore 6-6. So the battle of the Titans in Baltimore for first place. To answer your question, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to come back, if they're going to bring him back, if he's going to decide to step away, if Art Rooney II, the owner, decides to let him go. It's very interesting. The Steelers are like a mom and pop organization. They're not like a lot of these teams. And they do things very conservatively. 19 years is a long time. It's just the way the team has been playing. And at times they look terrible.
Okay.
And I don't know how else to put it. And he's the coach. And now even national people who've always been behind him are starting to come out against him, which is really the first time that's ever happened. So, but here's the other thing: they're 6-6. What if they win their last 5 games and win the division and go to the playoffs?
Yeah. Now you guys know the AFC North and always the great battles. Cleveland and Pittsburgh, tremendous rivalry. I'm just asking because I don't know it like y'all know it. What if Tomlin left Pittsburgh and went to Cleveland?
Yeah, it could happen.
Would you guys welcome him in Cleveland?
I think so. We welcomed our, just so you know, in the AFC North, among the fandom, we have our little nicknames: the Stoolers, the Bungles, the Clowns, and the Ratbirds. And so when Joe Flacco was first signed, even though I'm pretty neutral, but even I was like, oh, we got a Ratbird, really, but he quickly ingratiated himself. I just remember an interview where he was like, "Oh, I'm in the AFC North. We don't have domes in this conference. I love this conference." And so that got me excited. Like, okay, man, he's serious about this. So I think to answer your question, if Tomlin were to pull off something like that, hey, I know, the Turnpike rivalry, I was part of this for so long, if he talks it up, it's possible. Another thing, to credit my, Cleveland sources, I listen to 92.3 The Fan a lot here. Thankfully, even though I'm out of town, I feel like I'm in town because I get to listen to the local radio station. So, they were kind of floating an idea. I guess somebody said about a trade of potentially a first-round draft pick, and would the Browns give up a draft pick for him? And I don't think it's that serious. But if he were to volunteer to come, yeah, why not? And he can, like I said, pull on some of that spirit. Because one thing we do get to admire, and again, everybody has their style. He's a leader of men. Yep. He, like him or hate him, he's a leader of men. And that's something that we are in need of. The only thing is, Jim Schwartz is a leader of men on the defense, and that they would conflict on that area. Would you retain Jim Schwartz? And the answer, this kind of goes back to the other question about, okay, if you clean house, does Jim Schwartz wants to stay? Does that other coach want Jim Schwartz, the leader of that top 3 defense, to stay? Do we blow that up to increase the offense, but now you've blown up the defense, and Miles may not want to stay here anymore? So you would have a lot to consider there.
I think that I don't think it would happen. And as I wrote about in the new edition of the book, one of the things that last year, Russell Wilson, this year, Aaron Rodgers, when Tomlin got here, Ben Roethlisberger was there. He badly is seeking a veteran quarterback. To go to Cleveland would be a situation, I think in his mind would be the defense is there. They've got young talent, but I'd have to go in there and deal with the quarterback situation. I think that's been the downfall the last few years. I think that would prevent him maybe. I can see the Giants more. The Giants do have a quarterback. I don't know how long he's going to last with those scrambles he keeps taking, but they've got a decent defense. I can see the Giants more than possibly the Browns, even though it makes sense. But I think that quarterback situation, as far as Tomlin's concerned, would be a definite turnoff at this point. But I think if he goes somewhere else, he's going to want to go in there. He doesn't want to have to blow it up and rebuild. He wants to step into a situation where a couple things you add on and you're ready to go. And that quarterback situation, as you know, Bobby, in Cleveland, we don't know how long it's going to take for that to be. It could be next year. It could be a year after that. You just don't know how long it's going to take.
Another issue, I think, and you can probably speak to more, he's not very old, correct? So maybe he can take a Michael Jordan style break, 3-year hiatus, and come back.
That's what Sean Payton did. He took a year, maybe 2 years off, and come back. I tell you, my friend Larry Lee, former vice president of the Detroit Lions, he calls Tomlin the model coach of he says Mike Tomlin would be the model coach of a professional sport team, any kind of sports team, because of his leadership abilities, his ability to relate to players and talk to them and treat them like men. So he would not be out of a job long. He could go coach. A college team would scoop him up. I mean, if he decides to leave Pittsburgh, it could be a big loss for the Steelers. And I understand their frustration because they hadn't won championships. Because in Pittsburgh, they used to win a championship. And being in Detroit, I know how quickly that stuff changed. The Lions are 7-5, guys. And as JD knows, years ago, we'd be having a parade down Woodward. Man, we're 7-5. Everybody in town's pissed off right now. Damn, y'all just 7-5. So you get that stuff changes really quickly, and fans have the right to do that. They pay good money for all that. But if Mike Tomlin wants to keep coaching, he could coach it at practically any level he wanted to. I think he's that well regarded by the people who know the sport.
Well, funny side note, in the book, his brother Ed, a little bit older, I asked him about that, and he said that he doesn't see it happening. Of course, they drop $15-20 million a year on you. You change your mind. But he said he doesn't see him doing that. He said he's a gym teacher. He said he's a coach. But again, if Fox or somebody whoever, Prime or somebody comes up with one of those big contracts, and 20 million, he's making what, 15, 16. He's one of the highest paid coaches in the NFL now. He would definitely demand at least that. And now so maybe somebody drops that, and takes a year or two off. The more he becomes more attractive once he's out there, right? He's not necessarily coaching. He's at the games. He's traveling around talking to teams, right? Talking to owners, getting a feel for what might be the right situation. And people say, hey, Mike Tomlin, because Bill Cowher did that for years.
Yeah.
After he left the Steelers, people kept speculating that he was going to come back. He never did. He stayed. He's still in TV now. Tomlin might do that maybe for a couple of years, come back, pick the right team, the right situation. And okay, yeah, and next thing you know, he's back in the NFL again, or he might. Yeah, I agree. At 53, I don't think he's ready to stop coaching yet. I don't think so.
But Bobby, and guys, unfortunately, we just got a few more minutes left. But Bobby, I gotta throw this out there. What if when Deshaun comes back and starts practicing, he finds the magic he once had?
Well, I mean, then it is what it is. I mean, and he would have to convert that on the field. One of the things that I think, as JD was saying, like people have started to turn on Tomlin for the first time. That's kind of happened with Stefanski. He was always kind of defended, by the NFL insiders and, everything. Nothing was his fault ever and this and that. But this year, this is the first time that people are saying maybe his offensive schemes just don't work anymore. So it's not I don't rule out he can find the magic. I just wonder if he can find the magic with Stefanski. That's the issue I think we all are starting to see more than, can he find the magic back? Because you brought up Sean Payton. I remember reading how, he had to make his scheme less complex for Bo Nix. Instead of 25, 58, right? They just called the play Uber or something like that. I think Kevin Stefanski is so stuck in his ways. You have to win my way. You have to do it my way. And he found a guy in Dylan Gabriel who could do that off the field, but he couldn't convert that on the field. And it's just not going to, I just don't know if it will work. I think Deshaun has a reservoir of talent. I just don't know if it will work in this offense.
Yeah.
That's a great point. That's great. And he's really been out of it for a while too, right?
Yeah, I know.
He's been out of it for a while. It's going to take some time just to get back into the flow, right? Because even before he got hurt, that was not the guy that we saw in Houston.
Not playing well, right?
He was unbelievable in Houston.
Yeah, and we're starting to see, was it him? Yeah, part of it was him, but maybe it was his offense too, but that really was, at the time, we didn't think of that. It was only until this year that became an actual thing and people would say something critical of Stefanski, the two-time coach of the year.
But guys, I think if you're in Cleveland, you're in Pittsburgh, and offensively, you better have a run game first. And I think the Browns have found a guy in Judkins.
Yeah.
In those cold weather games, you can run the football. Of course, the Steelers had Jerome Bettis to churn out yards. So it starts there, starts with an offensive line. And I like Sanders, man. I cheer for that kid because he's a guy that has a lot of people that love him, a lot of people that hate him too. Just because of his father, I'm sure. And he got a lot of his dad in him. He got a lot of confidence. Let's just call it confidence about it.
It's the crowd more than to me. Well, we love Shador. He shows up at high schools. He, talk about ingratiating yourself in the community. Oh my goodness. I mean, he's everywhere. That's just who he is, personality wise. And so, you see that and you love it. It's just the fact that we have people who take it a little bit too far. And like I said, that you all seem surprised that people were calling people racists. Haslam, the radio hosts, me, when I'm making my comments.
Tony Grocery still over there.
You Uncle Tom, I done got all kind of, that sounds kind of white. I said, no, I'm following the team for I've been following the team for 40 years. Literally 1985 was the first time I got into football because I started playing Little League Baseball. So I said, I've been following this team for 40 years. And so when you say first team reps, I'm not using what I saw somebody else say. I'm drawing off my own experience, knowing that in 2023, the 5th round draft pick, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, made the team as a backup by not taking first team reps. He was with the 3s. He was with the 4s. Nobody complained. He went out and earned a job. Shador didn't. And that makes people uncomfortable.
Come on now.
It's not
Where else you gonna hear this? Come on, seriously. This is a serious Shedeur analysis, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
You're
just
getting it
football
straight.
analysis,
You're getting
pulling
it straight.
from. I mean, even in the pulling Jackson Dart didn't get first team reps when Russell Wilson was out there until it became clear that he was a starter. And again, pulling from my own experience. I remember when Lamar took over for Baltimore. Baker Mayfield wasn't taken. He was the number one pick of the draft. That's why he kind of had a beef with Hugh Jackson. He didn't take first team reps until the injury happened, and then he's out there. So it's the we all root for Sanders the person, but certain element, and he can't control it, and it's so sad. And even during one of the press conferences, he said, "Please don't make Dylan uncomfortable. Don't do that." And I was, like I said, I was kind of embarrassed by that. And it's not just Cleveland, it's this national group of fans, like the Caitlin Clark at Angel Reese type situation. Yep. Somebody got to be the enemy, and it's just tiring. And so we all root for I root for Shedeur because of what he wears, the brown and orange. The player, and he's a young man trying to make it in his world. Other than that, I'm just saying I'm not obsessed with it. It's just this obsession. And then so you have the opposite people who are obsessively hateful of him. I've watched some of the, local Browns fans who I've hung out with. They just, and I know they're not the kind of people, but they're kind of tired and they express it, of the Shedeur hype, and it's like, so they kind of take it out on him. And I think it's just more... just the hype. People are tired of
covered the NFL for years. I covered the NFL for years. Bobby, you've been involved in the NFL for years. I'm gonna just put it out there. He's not the first black quarterback. We've seen black quarterbacks get treated far worse and never ever really get an opportunity. Never. Mm-hmm. And for some of them sitting back watching, I wonder what they're thinking. And I think this is really this show here, this podcast. I think we can get emotional. I think we can also be very objective. We can give our opinions, and hopefully people will kind of listen. And you may not agree with everything, but we're going to break it down to you honestly and straightforward.
And I just want to say this before I go. I think about years ago, I covered Andre Ware when he came to Detroit.
Yeah.
And Andre never got a chance to play. They had no idea what to do with him. I actually talked to him the other day. And Andre's doing fantastic. He does ESPN radio. I'm like, bruh, you're about 30 years late, man. You should be playing now because your skill set fits today's NFL. And he's like, yeah, but hey, it is what it is. And he's doing fine. But we got to get out of here. JD, you just said it. We'd like to think we have some sophisticated conversations here about the world of sports and giving insight is great. I mean, how many shows got their own attorney with them, JD?
That's right.
If some go bad, we just call Bobby.
Right. But at the same time, I retain my journalism credentials. To me, I'm the Esquire. That's the only thing that changed. I'm always going to still be a journalist, ask questions, think for myself. That's something that is missing now, I think. And that's why I'm so proud to be part of this podcast. I've been invited to be a part of other podcasts, and I've had to decline because I don't trust them. But I trust you. I trust JD. I trust the ability for us to think on our own and pull from our own experiences, pull from what we've read, what we've seen, and not just go with the hot take.
Yeah. And hey, we see you out there. I see all you guys that are out there. Next week, send us your questions and comments. But we got to get out of here. We've gone overtime tonight. For Bobby Rockmore and John Harris, I'm Ricky Hampton. Peace, everybody. See you next time.
See ya.
All right.
Chai.